wrote an article yesterday in which he mentions just some of the things that make me a libertarian without even trying to be one. That's nice. D-Roy wrote, Donald J. Trump will address the Libertarian Party and its national convention on Saturday. The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa. That's nice. That's nice. Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win.
And I think would you take your kids to a drag queen story hour? Or would you drop them off at a drag queen story hour? And
I don't think that's what happens. Most of the time the parents are right there with the kids. But
I'm asking you, would you drop your kids off at a drag queen story hour and come back an hour later?
I mean, would you drop your kids off at a movie? Yeah.
Where do I even begin with this story? Okay, folks, well, if you were not following politics over the Memorial Day weekend because you are, I don't know, a normal person, you may have missed the total and complete collapse of the Libertarian Party, not just in 2024, but potentially forever. And this whole story is deranged, it is unhinged, it is chaotic, and frankly, kind of hilarious, and I honestly don't think that the Libertarians would rather have it any other way, but it all begins when Donald Trump tried to do something this weekend that is pretty unprecedented for a Republican presidential candidate. He actually tried to go to the Libertarian Party National Convention to seek out their nomination for president. Now, you may be saying, why would you do that? You're already the GOP nominee. Well, it's kind of a smart idea because although the LP is a small, insignificant, minor party in America, they still probably will get about maybe 1 to 2% of the potential Republican vote. And so if you can try to consolidate that vote before the election, hey, that's the smart thing to do. But I don't know if even Donald Trump was ready for how ridiculous of a showing he would have at the Libertarian Convention. So long story short, the Libertarians rejected his nomination for president, and a lot of Libertarians were laughing, saying, haha, Trump, you suck. You're not a real Libertarian. You will never be part of this party. And then all of a sudden, there is now a mass movement of Libertarians now trying to flock to Donald Trump and saying, forget the LP candidate, because it turns out they ended up nominating a guy for their candidate who apparently is a gay race communist who also supports vaccine mandates and mask mandates. That is not me saying it. That is not my words. Those are the words of many prominent libertarian influencers who are now getting behind the Trump train. And it again just seems like the entire coalition may have fallen apart. They nominated a guy who was completely terrible, and now it seems like the party is just going to be a non-factor. And as much of a joke as the LP has been for the past decade, this truly may end up going down as the final death blow to the party. But okay, so let's start here. Here were some of the highlights of Donald Trump's speech at the Libertarian Convention, and he essentially tried to make a pretty rational argument to the Libertarians, saying, hey, you can either keep getting 3% of the vote every 4 years, or you can back him and become a winner. Which, when you think about that logically for a second, I mean, I get it. Donald Trump is not the perfect libertarian from a libertarian's perspective. I don't really consider myself one, but I understand the philosophy. I used to be one back in the day, but he's much better on those issues, I would say, than Joe Biden. I mean, I think there are things that libertarians and conservatives do tend to agree on. So you can get behind him because you're not going to go anywhere. And clearly voting third party for so many years has not moved the needle anywhere. But then on top of that, you can technically say that you've had a Libertarian Party president for the White House if you get Donald Trump elected. So he tries to make that argument and it doesn't go well. But check this out here.
Think of this. First time in U.S. history that a presidential candidate of a rival party will address the convention of a party that is presumably gathering to nominate its own candidate. Now I think you should nominate me, or at least vote for me, and we should win together. You heard those words. Nominate me or vote. Vote for me. because the Libertarians want to vote for me, and most of them will, and it's very important, because we have to get rid of the worst president in history, and together we will. And without it, there's a risk that we could have 4 more years, we won't have a country left. So what is the purpose of the Libertarian Party getting 3%? What is the reason to take a chance of having this horrible president destroy our country, which he will do in far less than 4 years? It's not going to take 4 years. That is why I'm committing to you tonight that I will put a libertarian in my cabinet and also libertarians in senior posts. Pretty good. That's pretty big. Or you can keep going the way you have for the last long decades and get your 3% and meet again, get another 3%. No, you want to make yourself winners. It's time to be winners. You have a lot of common sense. It's time to be a winner.
Okay, so there you had it. As you could see, he was not popular at the Libertarian National Convention, and we'll get into that in a second. But listen to Donald Trump's argument there. I actually think it was pretty rational. It was a decent deal, which is, look, Joe Biden's a terrible president. The Libertarians agree on that. Donald Trump also points out you can keep getting 3% every year and keep going nowhere, right? Because I would argue the Libertarian movement has actually died in America largely. I mean, it was pretty big in 2012. It was big during the Tea Party. Where are these people now? They are totally irrelevant, right? And then he also makes them an offer they shouldn't refuse, which is, hey, I will even put libertarians in the cabinet, and that is my promise as a compromise to your party, because I know I'm not seen as the ideal or model libertarian. And how does this irrelevant party of man-children react to that? They're going out there booing him. You know, they want to just keep being immature and, you know, scream at the wall and go nowhere. But notice something that Trump also said there. He pointed out that most actual libertarians will still be voting for Donald Trump anyway. And that's something I want to make clear to any libertarians watching this video. Maybe you're a fan of my content, but you're saying, Vince, why are you bashing us? When I bash the libertarians in this video, I'm bashing uppercase L, libertarian, not lowercase, right? Because I think most generally more agreeable or normal libertarians will be voting for Donald Trump, and they tend to vote more Republican. But when we talk about the LP in this video, right, this is the band of just ridiculously crazy people who conservatives find it impossible to work with. Because I think genuinely, in normal circumstances, libertarians and conservatives can agree on a lot of things. We, for instance, at least me personally, right, I agree with the libertarians on something like guns, you know, taxes, dismantling the administrative state. I'm generally a capitalist, etc., etc. But really, where the LP, they always choose the stupidest hills to die on. They always want to talk about, yeah, but if you're not in favor of legalizing prostitution or drugs, or some even say a certain CP word, you know, it just gets totally ridiculous and out of hand. And it's like, no, we're not going to support that. But also on top of that, this is the hill you want to die on? Oh yeah, you're not in favor of legalizing crack deals and prostitutes right in the middle of downtown streets in America? Screw you, you tyrant, etc., etc. But, you know, keep in mind, most libertarians, in my opinion, are not those types of ridiculous people. But when we talk about the Libertarian Party and the people who caucus and vote for this party, that's who we're talking about. Just the ridiculous, as they're sometimes accurately described here, liberals who like guns. And I don't think there's a better example than this alleged report that one LP member apparently shouted, and by the way, just as a disclaimer for YouTube, I think this is pretty apparent, but let me just make it clear, I disavow this, I'm reporting on this, I'm not encouraging this at all whatsoever. This is obviously a very terrible thing that he said, but he apparently said that Donald Trump should have taken a bullet, okay? So just to give you a behavior here, here's this guy, you know, you're a totally irrelevant party in the United States. You complain that nobody listens to you or cares about you, which they shouldn't. You're a bunch of children. But, you know, on top of that, he comes, for once, a major presidential candidate comes to address your party, and that's how you respond. That's how you treat people. Yeah, no wonder nobody in America takes your party seriously. But anyways, okay, get your laughs out. Haha, Donald Trump, we rejected you. Well, then it actually turns out, folks, that the guy they nominated, who is a character by the name of Chase Oliver, Well, just look at the picture here on your screen and see for yourself. Yeah. Okay. Apparently, he is a pro-LGBT, pro-DEI, pro-mask mandate, basically a leftist. Okay. And this is the guy they end up nominating. And by the way, not only was Donald Trump apparently booed in that room for talking about, fixing the border because the Libertarian Party supports open borders too. Here is now the official Libertarian nominee for president defending open borders and LP people. Just know this right here is your guy. Take a listen.
Hey folks, Chase Oliver here, candidate for president with the Libertarian Party, and I am in Nogales, Arizona, and behind this fence and razor wire is Nogales, Mexico. Actually has the exact same name. This is the same city, just two different countries. Nogales, Arizona, Nogales, Mexico. And I am here because I want to break some myths about immigration in this country. There's a lot of things that statists try to sell you as ideas that are actually nothing more than scare tactics or false statistics and things that aren't true. And so let's talk about this. First, if you ask people who live here or know the community here, people who are coming to this country just want to work for the most part. They are not seeking to take our welfare. And in fact, you're 3 times more likely to go into a welfare program as a native-born citizen than as a migrant. And so the truth is a lot of these folks are actually working. They use a fake social security number because they don't have documentation, so they pay into the system, and they never get those benefits back. And so when we're talking about immigration here, we need to understand this, that these people are just trying to seek a better life. And when you see fences like this, these kinds of things belong more in, dystopian, totalitarian states like East Germany that would separate East and West Berlin. These walls prevent commerce. These walls prevent peaceful people from being able to move freely about and spend their money or their labor or their time either in Mexico or here in the United States. And I think it's wrong to be denying anybody the ability to move freely unencumbered without much difficulty. This is why we need Ellis Island style of immigration. You should be able to come through a port of entry. There's a port of entry right here behind me. You should be able to come right through there and give your name, basically do a basic criminal background check, and get in here to be able to come here to work or visit or do whatever you want to do. And so I'm going to keep fighting for more peaceful immigration and to tear down walls just like this one behind me. First off, if you travel just a few miles out of town, there is no wall, there's no fence. So what good does it do to develop this scary razor wire covered structure other than to try to put fear and intimidation into voters, into the people, and let the government have more and more control over our lives and the lives of free people who just want to come here and put down their roots and start their American dream. Yeah, so there you have it. Again, libertarians, this is your guy, a pretty direct advocation for open borders. And once again, this is why I say, in theory, and I think in many cases it's often true, but conservatives and libertarians could have a decent alliance because there are a lot of things we agree on. But no, I don't support open borders, for instance, and I don't accept the argument, oh, you're not a real capitalist. Okay, then whatever. I guess I'm not a real capitalist, but I don't believe that we should just allow open borders because it allows the freedom of commerce and it's good for the economy. It's good for the GDP, right? I reject that, etc. But anyways, just to summarize there again, libertarians, this is your guy. Okay, this is who they nominated. Again, big capital L libertarians. And this candidate is apparently being received so poorly by many Libertarian Party influencers that apparently a lot of them are now endorsing Trump. And we're going to read you here this article from the Post Millennial that is documenting that reaction. And it is, again, hilarious to see because the LP this election cycle is going to get as few votes as ever. So after Chase Oliver was nominated to be the Libertarian nominee for the 2024 election, a top libertarian in the movement came out and endorsed Donald Trump for the election instead, citing Oliver's radical views and calling him a gay race communist. So I'm here to talk about not just the injustice that Cop City brings, but what militarization of police brings to us. I was in the streets in summer of 2020 when we were peacefully protesting the murder of George Floyd, the murder of Breonna Taylor and others. And it was the Atlanta police who decided to bring the tanks rolling down the street and who decided to call in the National Guard. It was y'all who corralled us. It was y'all who were pepper spraying and tear gassing us. It was the police who were pulling people out of their cars and arresting them for no reason other than the fact they were lost on the night of the protest. And so what does the police get in reward for that? $67 million of taxpayer money to fund your facility? That's ridiculous. I don't think it's right to be giving you $1 until you restore trust with the people.
After the same guy called Trump supporters socialist at the convention over the weekend, popular libertarian Jeremy Kauffman posted that he would be voting for Trump instead of Oliver in this election. And that's what he said there on Twitter. Austin Petersen came out himself and said that Chase Oliver is the best Libertarian Party candidate for helping re-elect Donald Trump, basically saying, yeah, libertarians ended up choosing the worst possible candidate that they could. Okay.
Why do you think that the drag queens want to read to children?
Because I think that they are performance artists and they want to be able to have different levels of performance art. It's the same reason as why do the Wiggles sing to children? Because they want to have a marketplace to kids.
Chase,
they want to be able to.
The Wiggles is made for children. It's obviously family friendly material. Drag queens are not what you call family friendly kind of entertainment.
Okay, but a man in a dress is what drag is, right? Let's just be real. A man in a dress or a woman in a suit is what drag is. Mm-hmm. That is not inherently sexual. There is inherently sexual drag. And you're not going to convince me. I mean, I'm not going to defend otherwise. There absolutely is. But there's also the ability to perform as a man in a wig without being sexual. And that is what this is. And I guarantee you, if you act like I said, I went for myself because I was like, why are there people protesting this thing? I want to see what this drag queen story time is myself. And I want to see what it is. And nothing sexual was going on. And I think that is the truth for 99% of this. And I think
would you take your kids to a drag queen story hour? Or would you drop them off at a drag queen story hour
I don't think that's what happens. Most of the time, the parents are right there with the kids. But
I'm asking you, would you drop your kids off at a drag queen story hour and come back an hour later?
Would you drop your kids off at a movie? Yeah.
Trump got the Libertarian Party to implode itself. It will take them years to recover, if ever, from the optics disaster of that clown show convention, a summary that I also think is very true. Dear Donald Trump, the Libertarians offer you a pro-open borders, pro-transing of children, pro-DEI LP nominee who will garner just 1% of the vote. Now we'd like to speak with you about the senior and cabinet positions you promised Libertarians on Saturday. Blessings, Josie. So she goes out and says, look, guys, remember that offer he made where he said he'll appoint some of our people to his White House? I think we should take that up now. I mean, we really picked a bad candidate here, folks. Tim Pool went out and said that Trump won the Libertarian Party after all, which is kind of true, right? They picked a nominee so bad that Trump did essentially win the de facto Libertarian nomination because most Libertarians will be voting for Donald Trump now. Dave Smith, another libertarian, went out and stated that ironically, Chase winning is the best outcome for Trump this weekend, much better than a standing ovation at his speech. And that is very real. And again, just to reiterate, folks, Chase Oliver is indeed in favor of transitioning children, mask and vax mandates, men and women's sports, and open borders. Okay, folks. So, round of applause, guys. The Libertarians as serious as a party as ever, frankly. Okay, with that said, I think it does speak for itself, but my plea to any libertarians who may be potentially on the fence, I want you to understand this. Most of us conservatives, we are not big fans of the GOP either. And I think that's what a lot of libertarians, maybe you want to mature a little bit, have to recognize, okay? Do I caucus with the Republicans most of the time? Yes. Am I any more of a fan of the Republican Party than the average libertarian is? Absolutely not. But I also recognize hey, first of all, what other option do you have? Because are you going to go get Chase Oliver less than 1% of the vote? Is that a waste of time? I think that is. But then on top of that, there's an idea of infiltration, right? If you have a certain agenda and you want to get it through, the most effective way to get it through, even if it's sometimes tedious in America, is to slowly get it into one of the major parties in this country. And that's been the conservative approach for the long time. Now, Trump is going to you and saying, look, I will get libertarians in the White House if you go vote for me. I think that's the smart move to take, frankly. Okay. And if we want to agree on the issues I think are actually important or realistic to tackle in this country, whether you want to talk about, again, guns, taxes, the administrative and deep state, capitalism, whatever you want to say, to an extent, because I don't support the open borders thing, obviously, then, I think we can make a pretty useful alliance, frankly. But if you're going to go here and die on the most ridiculous hills ever, like, again, prostitution, legalizing all drugs, open borders, then this again summarizes the unseriousness of your movement and why you can't get anywhere. Because not only are those types of ideas unpopular with conservatives, they're frankly unpopular with most people in the United States. Okay, people don't want open borders. People don't want all this ridiculous nonsense that the Libertarian Party always chooses to die on that hill. And why is that? Because in many ways, the party itself is ran by ridiculous people and full of ridiculous people, and most of the actual good, well-meaning libertarians will be voting for Donald Trump anyway. So that's just something to think about. But okay, with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts on the implosion of the Libertarian Party that we basically witnessed this weekend. How much of the vote do you think they will get in November? And what do you think of their joke of a nominee, Chase Oliver? Be sure to let me know. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, Alpha Moves Only. God bless. Have a very great rest of your day, and peace.